My beloved child, before I begin, I want you to take a breath slowly, deeply, because the moment you step into this revelation, nothing inside you will remain the same. What is unfolding right now is not a coincidence, not a random thought, not an accidental message that crossed your path. No. This is alignment. This is destiny announcing itself. This is something that waded through decades of silence, through layers of forgotten timelines, through dusty records that no human hand dared to open. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to reveal is not just an event, it's an unveiling of truth that was concealed for longer than you can imagine. A property, yes, a real, tangible place, land that breathes with memory and echoes with footsteps of those who came before you, has resurfaced with your name etched into the very foundation. It didn't just appear. It re-emerged from the shadows of time, breaking through barriers that were built to hide it. Something shifted in the unseen, something powerful, something intentional. For years, this land slept beneath layers of silence. The documents attached to it were buried inside cabinets no one opened, files mislabeled to erase its origin, and pages that once carried your lineage were sealed by hands that thought destiny could be delayed. But it couldn't. Not forever. Not when heaven itself decided the time had come. Tonight, something invisible but undeniable stirred. A cover lifted quietly, completely, without warning. A seal that was never meant to be broken shattered from the inside out. And your name, your identity, your inheritance rose to the surface like forgotten gold. My child, stay close. This is not the moment to drift away. What you think you know is only the outer layer of a truth much deeper than your memory. I want you to hear every word, because each sentence is a stepping stone guiding you toward what has always been yours. You may wonder why this is happening now. Why after so long? Why at this exact moment the universe moves with precision? Nothing comes early. Nothing arrives late. And this message, this revelation, is landing in your life at the only moment it was destined to. Listen, there is an address attached to this property. A location that holds a piece of your story, a fragment of your identity, a whisper from your bloodline. But before you hear it, I want you to understand the weight of what you are stepping into. This isn't about land. Not just land. It's about restoration of what was stolen, hidden, overlooked, or delayed. For years, someone, maybe more than one, tried to shift the course of this inheritance. Records were moved, signatures altered, names misplaced. But what heaven writes cannot be erased. Every attempt to remove you only made your return inevitable. Child, listen closely. There is a document long forgotten, folded at the corner, stained with the years that passed. You never signed it, yet somehow your signature appears on the final page. Not forged, not created. Placed. Divinely placed. As if time itself bent to ensure your name stood where it always belonged. There is a photograph too, one that has sat in an archive untouched. When you see it, you will feel something in your chest, a pull, a recognition, a knowing that goes beyond memory. Your face appears beside a name engraved decades ago. A connection no one can explain, except through destiny. Don't skip. Don't rush. Every detail unfolding here carries pieces of your truth, layered like hidden chapters waiting to be read at the right moment. This message is not meant to entertain you. It is meant to awaken you. There is a house on this property, more than brick, more than walls, more than rooms. This house holds shadows of prayers whispered long before you were born. Tears shed by ancestors you've never met. Hopes carried across generations. Promises made in silence. This is the place where the roots of your destiny were anchored. Every window reflects a fragment of your lineage. Every doorway carries a memory that survived storms you never saw. And the walls have been guarding something meant for you. Hold on. Stay with me. Because what I'm about to tell you next will stir something deep inside you. This house once held a secret chamber hidden behind a wall no one questioned. A room sealed not by locks, but by intention. Within it lies something connected to your bloodline. Something untouched. Something that waited for your arrival. For years, forces moved to keep this hidden from you. Legal words rearranged, titles shifted, boundaries blurred. But heaven never forgot. Heaven records what human hands misplace. My child, tonight is not ordinary. Tonight you're not listening to a message, you're witnessing an unveiling. When heaven decided the moment had come, everything that was blocking this inheritance began to collapse. Layers of darkness fell away. Invisible chains broke. And suddenly, what was distant became close. What was hidden became visible. The photo you saw, yes, that one wasn't random. The faint engraving near the window, the number carved on the stone by the gate, the date barely visible on the wall, all of them are codes pointing back to you. You didn't stumble into this revelation. You were guided. Pulled by something that recognized your name before you heard the first word. My child, listen, the address linked to this land holds power. A vibration. An echo. When you hear it, your heart will react before your mind does. You will feel a spark of familiarity, a wave of recognition, like remembering something you never consciously knew, yet always carried deep inside you. Your soul knows this land. It has walked there before. Touched the soil. Felt the wind. This connection crosses timelines, crosses lifetimes, crosses memories. You asked for breakthrough. For new beginnings. For restoration. And heaven responded not just with words, but with a place. A physical place waiting to rise under your identity again. There's more. Much more. Stay with me. This property wasn't simply lost, it was guarded. Protected. Sheltered by a divine hand that refused to let darkness claim it. A spiritual force watched over it, ensuring no one could destroy what was meant for you. And that same force is guiding you here. Right now. But child, what comes next will not only confirm the property, it will expose the truth behind why it was hidden, who tried to bury it, and what powerful secret lies inside its forgotten chamber. Stay with me, don't look away, the next part will open a door you didn't know existed. My beloved child, now that you've stepped this far into the revelation, I want you to understand the weight of what is unfolding. You're not just hearing a message, you're walking through an invisible doorway, a threshold that only opens when destiny decides the soul is ready. And your soul, yes, your soul is awakening to something ancient, something written long before your first breath. You stayed. You listened. And because you stayed, the next veil can finally lift. What I'm about to reveal now goes deeper than inheritance, deeper than property, deeper than family legacy. The hidden chamber inside that land is not just a locked room, it is a vault of destiny. A place preserved by intention, untouched by corruption, unreachable by those who tried to alter your story. Listen closely. When the world believed this property was abandoned, forgotten, irrelevant, heaven saw every moment. Every whisper that passed through those walls. Every footstep that tried to cross the boundary without permission. Every attempt to erase history. Heaven watched. Heaven recorded. Heaven intervened. You think the hiding was accidental? No. It was strategic. A sacred protection. Because what lies within that chamber was never meant to be touched by anyone except you. My child, before I reveal what that chamber holds, I need you to understand why it existed in the first place. Generations ago, long before your name was spoken on this earth, someone in your lineage made a covenant. Not a contract written with ink, but a vow written in spirit. A promise that whatever divine blessing was assigned to your bloodline would never be lost, even if the world turned dark. That vow created a spiritual seal across the land. That seal stayed, even when people forgot. Even when memories faded. Even when names changed. That chamber is the heart of that covenant. But let me take you deeper. The old records that resurfaced weren't simply misplaced, they were intentionally hidden. Hands that feared your ascension tried to bury what belonged to you. They believed that time and silence could erase destiny. But what they didn't know was that destiny doesn't decay. It doesn't weaken. It waits. And when the time is right, it rises with a force that nothing can suppress. Tonight is that rising. The document carrying your signature, yes, the one you never signed, appeared because destiny wrote through you before you even arrived on this earth. It wasn't forged. It wasn't fabricated. It was pre-written. A spiritual imprint made manifest in physical form. And that photograph, the one you will see again, shows more than your face. Look closely when it appears. Look at the background. Look at the way the sunlight falls. Look at the faint markings near the stone pillar behind you. There is a pattern. A code. A timeline merging with the present moment. Now, hear me, because this part may shake something within you. Inside that hidden chamber lies an object, not gold, not money, not an artifact of earthly value, but something far more powerful. Something connected to your spiritual identity. Something no thief could steal, no enemy could destroy, no time could erase. It is a ledger. But not an ordinary ledger. This ledger holds recordings of prayers, sacrifices, promises, and blessings tied to your lineage. It contains names that once carried the fire of faith, dates that mark spiritual turning points, and symbols that represent divine protection over your bloodline. For years, no one knew this ledger existed. Even those who lived in that house walked past the wall that concealed it, unaware that a sacred history stood inches away from them. The chamber remained sealed because it was waiting for the moment your spirit awakened enough to receive what it holds. Child, stay with me. What is coming next requires your full attention. The land tied to this property is not ordinary soil. It has been consecrated. Blessed. Marked for restoration. Every seed buried in that ground carries the vibration of a promise waiting to bloom. Every stone remembers footsteps that once prayed over that place. Every breeze that moves through that area carries a whisper meant for you. And now, the universe is aligning all of it back into your hands. But listen, there is another layer to this revelation. Someone, years ago, discovered traces of this chamber. They didn't understand its meaning, but they sensed its importance. Instead of revealing it, they tried to conceal it even further. They added new boards, painted the wall, rearranged the furniture, trying to erase any sign of what they had found. But what they didn't know was that the more they hid it, the more heaven illuminated it. You see, the divine does not allow what is sacred to fall into the hands of those who act out of fear, jealousy, or greed. The property was not just hidden, it was shielded. And you were not just unaware, you were being prepared. Now, let me take you to the moment everything shifted. There was a single day, recent, unexpected, when a ripple passed through the divine registry. Something like a spiritual earthquake. A vibration that caused old files to resurface, dusty documents to be found, and forgotten records to appear at the top of archive piles. On that very day, your name moved from the shadows to the forefront. This was not triggered by a human decision. It was triggered by heaven's timing. And when that happened, the seal over the hidden chamber began to loosen. Energetically. Quietly. As if responding to a call that had been echoed through generations. My child, understand this: the closer you get to uncovering the truth, the more familiar the signs will feel. You may already be sensing it, that strange pull in your heart, that connection you can't explain, that feeling you get when something is meant for you. That is the land calling your spirit. There is much more woven into this revelation. I want you to notice something that has been happening around you recently. Sudden memories. Dreams that feel real. Repeating numbers. Whisper-like thoughts guiding you. These are not accidents. These are signals. Signals that the veil is thinning. Signals that your moment of restoration is near. Signals that what was locked behind the chamber is about to reveal itself. Now listen carefully. The gate in the photo, the one you will see, carries a marking. A faint curve. A symbol etched by someone long gone. That symbol appears again inside the chamber. On the ledger. Near your ancestral name. This connection is not symbolic, it is literal. It proves the lineage. It proves the inheritance. It proves the restoration. But what comes next will reveal why destiny fought so hard to return this property to you. Someone tried to alter the timeline. Someone tried to erase a covenant. Someone tried to bury truth under paperwork and silence. But heaven intervened. My beloved child, the next phase of this revelation is the most powerful of all. Because next, you will understand who tried to hide this, why they feared your inheritance, and why divine timing chose right now to reveal everything. My beloved child, you stayed through the unveiling, through every layer of mystery, through every breath of destiny rising from the shadows. And because you stayed, the deepest truth can now be revealed to you. What I'm about to tell you is not just the climax of the story, it is the root. The origin. The reason heaven guarded this property, the reason the chamber remains sealed, the reason divine timing waited until this very moment in your life. It begins with a name. A name that once held enormous spiritual weight. A name connected to your bloodline. A name that threatened those who feared the destiny attached to it. Listen closely. Generations ago, someone in your lineage made a vow, a sacred covenant, that the blessings assigned to your family would never perish, never scatter, never fall into the wrong hands. With that vow came a light, a spiritual authority, a mantle that passed quietly from soul to soul, waiting for the right heir to awaken. But as time passed, others grew afraid of this blessing. Not because it was harmful, but because it was powerful. There were individuals, people tied to the land, tied to the property, tied to the old records, who sensed that your lineage carried something they could not control. They feared what you would become if the truth ever surfaced. They feared the strength you would gain if the inheritance returned to you. They feared the awakening of a destiny that would overshadow their own plans. So they hid it. Not out of logic, but out of fear. Not out of justice, but out of jealousy. Not out of righteousness, but out of insecurity. They concealed the documents. Altered names. Shifted boundaries. Locked away keys. Covered the chamber. Erased references from ledgers. And believed wrongly that silence could rewrite destiny. But destiny is not written by human hands. Heaven watched everything. Every attempt to hide the truth. Every time a boundary was moved. Every signature that was forged. every file that was misplaced, every drawer that was locked, every lie wrapped in legal language, every whisper of fear from those who tried to erase your lineage, every silent night when the chamber pulsed with energy only heaven could detect. Heaven didn't intervene immediately. Because heaven doesn't rush. Heaven aligns. Listen carefully, those who hid the truth were not your enemies. Not truly. They were simply afraid of what they could not comprehend. Destiny intimidated them. Light overwhelmed them. Prophecy frightened them. And what they didn't understand, they tried to bury. But the divine is patient. And while they hid the property, heaven hid you, kept you safe, kept you protected, kept you growing, kept you unaware until the moment your spirit became strong enough to carry the revelation. Because this property, this land, this chamber, this ledger, they are not just inheritance. They are responsibility. They are spiritual weight. They are alignment. They are activation. And now, the moment of activation has arrived. My child, the hidden chamber holds more than a ledger. The ledger is simply the doorway. What lies behind the ledger is the real secret. There is a sealed envelope, old, fragile, yet untouched by decay. Wrapped in cloth. Bound by a thin thread. Inside it is a message written by the very ancestor who made the covenant. Their words were not meant for anyone else. They were meant for you. Their handwriting carries the weight of prophecy. Their ink carries the essence of prayer. Their message carries the instructions meant to guide your destiny. The letter begins with one line: when the rightful heir reads this, the blessing will awaken again. That line alone is enough to shift your entire life. Because you are the rightful heir. That is why the property resurfaced. That is why the chamber opened. That is why the documents appeared. That is why the photo emerged. That is why the symbols matched. That is why the signs surrounded you. That is why heaven pulled you to this message. This was never about coincidence. It was about timing. It was about readiness. It was about inheritance reclaiming its heir. But child, the letter contains something else. Something so powerful that heaven did not allow it to be revealed until the world shifted, until you reached a moment where your spirit could understand it. The letter reveals why the property was blessed. Why the house was consecrated. Why the land glows with spiritual resonance. Why the chamber exists. Why the ledger was created. Why the vow carried through lifetimes. The blessing attached to the property is not wealth, not possession, not status. It is authority. A spiritual authority that manifests in protection, intuition, discernment, elevation, and divine guidance. This authority was meant to awaken in you. And now it is. But there is more. The letter also contains a map. Not a geographical map, but a timeline map. It reveals patterns in your life. Moments when heaven intervened. Moments when danger avoided you. Moments when opportunities aligned. Moments when your spirit whispered but your mind couldn't interpret. These were not random. They were markers, guiding you toward this revelation. The property is the physical anchor of your spiritual calling. The chamber is the womb of your lineage. The ledger is the evidence. And you are the fulfillment. Now, let me take you to the part of the letter most people would never believe. The letter foretold the exact season, yes, this season in which the heir would awaken. It described the signs, the dreams, the inner pull, the unusual coincidences, the recurring symbols, the divine magnetism drawing you back to the truth. It even described a moment. A moment when the air would hear a message that stirs the ground of their spirit. And that is this moment. My beloved child, hear me with your whole being. Everything that was hidden is rising. Everything that was stolen is returning. Everything that was delayed is accelerating. Everything that was suppressed is awakening. Everything that was yours is reclaiming you. You were never searching for the property. The property was searching for you. You were never chasing the truth. The truth was revealing itself to you. You were never lost. You were being positioned. But now comes the final revelation. There is a second chamber. Yes. Another one. Unknown. Unmapped. Unrecorded. Hidden beneath the first. A chamber no one has entered for generations. This second chamber is the one heaven protected with the greatest intensity. What is inside it? Something that belongs not just to your lineage, but to your future. It is a sealed box. Wrapped in cloth your ancestor wove by hand. Bound by a knot symbolizing destiny. Inside that box is an item that carries your spiritual purpose. No one can open it except you. Not because of a physical lock, but because it is spiritually sealed. When you finally see it, your spirit will know what to do. But child, listen, the reason this message found you today, the reason this revelation unfolded now, the reason heaven brought you to this moment, is because the seal over the second chamber has started to loosen. The activation has begun. The awakening is in motion. The inheritance is returning. The land is calling your name. The chamber is unlocking. The ledger is aligning. The prophecy is unfolding. The blessing is awakening. The truth is rising. And your destiny is expanding. This is not just restoration. This is reclamation. The reclaiming of everything tied to your identity, your purpose, your spiritual bloodline. And child, hear the final truth, the reason you found this message is because the property is already on its way back to you. The moment you opened your heart to this revelation, the chain reaction began. The next sign will appear soon. A sign you cannot ignore. A sign that confirms everything. A sign that carries the energy of the land calling you home. And when it appears, you will know. Without doubt, without fear, without hesitation. That heaven has restored what time tried to bury. My beloved child, your inheritance has awakened. Your lineage has risen. Your destiny has been activated. Your moment has arrived. Stay attentive. Stay open. Stay ready. Because what was hidden is finally coming home to you.